Okay, welcome to today's live stream. In this stream, I'm just going to be doing another session. This is January 10th drawing session, trying to keep up with doing these daily live streams. If you guys have any questions or anything like that, you can let me know. This was the one that we did yesterday. And so one of the things I liked about that was I got into the shading, started with the eye, and just kind of built down the face. These sketches were done from my with references from my ebook, An Artist's X-Ray Vision, the male figure. So if you're interested and if you'd like to support the creative process and get a ebook with some helpful diagrams, helpful things to think about if you're interested in figurative drawing or sculpting or painting, that diagram has a bunch of helpful diagrams that I've found really useful as a figurative artist. So yeah, there's a link for those ebooks. There's one on the male figure, one on the female figure. Links for those in the description. And so that was yesterday. So let's go ahead and start a new day, a new page. And if you guys have questions or comments or anything like that, feel free to ask those if you're watching live. Actually, I'm gonna go ahead and set up the camera to do Instagram as well. So let me grab that just so that we can have even more of a chance of having some questions and engagement. I'm just gonna set this up. Sorry, I should have set this up before. But that's it. Sometimes there's technical difficulties, so I'm gonna be setting this up so we can also get some Instagram going. So I'll be live both of those places, though I won't be able to see the Instagram feed, so I'll let people there know that I won't be able to do it through there. Let's go ahead and set that up on Instagram as well. Let's see. We want to go live. And I'm going to Okay, we're live now. All right, so we're live on Instagram as well as on YouTube. I'd like to eventually be able to do it where I can be live on several places, like all of the streaming platforms. But for now, these are the two that we're going to be doing. So I have this Q-Lox graphite pencil. This is 5.6 millimeter, so pretty thick. And this lead, I actually looked it up, so it's, let me write it down just because I really like this particular type of lead, and it's Q Noir, so KOOHINOOR. Q Noir Hartmouth. And I found this to be 4345-2. And I found this pencil, this particular type of lead, that's 5.6, I'll write that out, 5.6 millimeter black pencil lead. Something like that. So I searched this on eBay to get it because this one, and then there's also a 1 version. So the 1 version is soft. This is the medium version 2 that has a 2 at the end. And then there's a 3 version that's a little bit harder. And I just found it to be a little bit more, what would you say, forgiving, or I don't know, like it seemed to shade easier than the other one. And so I liked that, and sometimes I like knowing what people are using. So if you're interested, that's what I'll be using to draw. If you guys have questions, I'll try to look every once in a while on Instagram, though that's behind me, so I can't see it as well. So I'm gonna start off with this drawing. I might, do a longer shaded version of this pose, this body, this like classic, or I guess old school is what you call it, old school bodybuilder pose. Might do that, or I might do something else, but I just thought this pose was interesting. And this is, I believe it's back before steroids, though I'm not sure. Before steroids kind of changed the game with bodybuilding. It looks a little bit more natural, realistic, and obtainable, though it's hard to know for sure what, because steroids have been around for a while. So okay, so I'm just gonna go through and get a basic outline, and then start doing a little bit more shading. I want to get better at shading, so today I'm going to try to work on that. And then also, learning anatomy, thinking about anatomy. These drawing sessions are all about improving and trying to gather visual information for future use. And that just comes from observation and from time, time observing. Let's see, so we got bring this up. Okay, let's see. The face on this, let's see, who is this? It says Danny at the 81 Mr. Olympia. So I don't know the last name, but that's what it says. So 81 Mr. Olympia. You can really see the bony structure. Let's see. Let's raise this up maybe a little bit higher. Of these builders there, or these bodybuilders. You can really see that skeletal structure on the face because of how lean they get, losing all that fat that softens the face. And we'll come in and do some of those details in a little bit. Let me just trying to just give a few lines to indicate the direction of those striations, those muscle striations in the chest and shoulders. And then we'll come in, once I feel like things are headed in the right direction, we'll come in and solidify some of these lines. Let me move the Instagram feed over just a little bit. But it's a similar angle as the other camera. Okay. shoot. Shoot, you guys couldn't even see what I was writing. I didn't think to look about that. But this is the type of lead that I'm using over here. This mechanical pencil. Okay. Okay, I'm going to go around and start to just outline a little bit more. The figure. And then I'll go and shade it. Hola, buenos días, saludos, saludos. Beautiful artwork. Somebody says, thank you. Yeah, it's coming along slowly. This one, hopefully it'll be nice by the end, I think. I think it will, but we'll see. And some of the line work, especially like this under part of the forearm, some of the line work over on this side is hidden in shadow, so you can't really see because of the dark background and because of the shadows. You can't really see where the forms end, so you just got to make an educated guess on where things, the direction things are moving in, and hopefully you won't be too far off. Okay, let's come in. Let's do a little bit more on the portrait. I'm going to erase just a little bit. I try not to erase too much, but just to get a little bit more of a fresh start on the portrait. And the reason I'm doing these live streams is because I set a goal, a New Year's resolution, to draw more. And so this, I mean, so far, I'm doing it. Just these daily drawing sessions for a little bit, I think I've already probably drawn more than last year. Maybe not yet, but I am definitely drawing more than I was. Got an interesting face, interesting portrait, but let's get the body figured out first. So I'm gonna start coming through and giving an indication, a dividing line between light and shadow, and trying to think about where that shadow would be really soft, and then where it would be more firm. So the places where it's a cast shadow is more firm. Like here under the pec, that's a very sharp transition for the shadow. On the other side, on the underside, and then here on top is a lot softer of a transition from light to shadow. And I tried to do this with the lead, but I just didn't have as much success. But with this pencil, I just feel like it softens that line quite a bit. Let's see. In a way that's quite pleasing. So there's going to be, these cast shadow parts are going to be a little bit firmer of a line. Then they will We're gonna try to, as I'm working on shading, I want to get better at shading, so I'm gonna try to have the shading, the light is falling kind of primarily on his shoulder here, so I want it to kind of fade as it moves down the body to become less intense. And I'll maybe exaggerate that a little bit. So he's asking, what type of pencil do you use? This is a mechanical pencil, 5.6 millimeter black lead. So it's written up here. I don't know. Can you read that on? Let me zoom in just a little bit. And the lead in the mechanical pencil is this Keo Noir Hartmouth 4345-2, which is a medium. There's a 4345-1, which is soft, and a 4345-3, which is hard. And the medium, this medium is nice. And I just ordered some more of this because I was like, oh, this is way better than I was doing it just with basic charcoal, but I find that I can control things a lot more with this. The shading in the areas where I'm doing shading seems to just more easily be soft, and so I like that. I don't have to. I feel like I don't have to be as what would you say? I don't have to be as particular with the force that I'm using. It's not as sensitive, I guess I could say. With charcoal, you press a little bit harder, and you know, it gets very, very dark very quickly, well, depending on the type of charcoal you're using. But, and maybe I'm just inexperienced with charcoal, but I've found that this pencil makes drawing a little bit more fun because it is more forgiving. You have to press harder, and I feel like when I use the side of the lead, it softens these transitions between the shadow areas better than the charcoal. Maybe, you know, and maybe I just wasn't using the right charcoal, but I do prefer this. Let's go ahead and define this clavicle a little bit more. I'm going to shade a little bit the whole torso, and then I can remove some with an eraser if I need to. Same thing over here with the arm, shoulder. So you can see like this line I'm doing here with the side of the pencil. Like if I just go over it several times and just increase the pressure a little bit, it softens that line up really nice, in a way that I like a little bit more than when I was trying the same thing with the just a regular lead. Let's see, we got one. Somebody's asking, do you make a living with art? Yeah, I most of my income comes from the online sculpting courses that I teach. So I teach people how to sculpt. I also have some, ebooks, an artist's X-ray vision, the male figure and the female figure, and those are just resources for artists. But the majority of my income comes from the online sculpting courses that I teach, and I'm not saying I make a incredible living, or I wouldn't say it's lucrative or easy, but that is how I make a majority of my income is from the arts. I also do a few sculpture shows, typically Sculpture in the Park in Loveland, Colorado. That's the largest juried sculpture show in the U.S., and I try to do that once a year, and so that's some income from that generally. But yes, technically I make a living as an artist, though. Um, if I was more successful, I wouldn't have been priced out of Utah. So it doesn't come without sacrifices. So if I was making enough, I'd still be living in Utah. But had to move to Idaho where the houses were cheaper. But because I make a living as an artist online, I was able to move without having to be tied to a location or a job, which is nice. And when I moved into this, farmhouse, it's kind of a fixer-upper farmhouse. I'm also able to do house projects and work on fixing things up, because those online courses can somewhat, they don't need a lot of upkeep. Though I have to advertise for them, so that's why I try to be consistent with producing content and mentioning those. But for the most part, it's close to residual income, which is nice. That's income that comes in whether you're working or not, or on vacation, or whatever you're doing. Though it wasn't easy to build something like that. But I guess maybe that's a long answer to the question. But the short answer is yes, I'm making a living and trying to make a living as an artist. Hello, somebody says on YouTube. Hello and welcome. There's an effect that I kind of like, that I maybe want to try to take advantage of, where the shadows kind of blend into the background. But to do that, you have to shade the background. So maybe I'll do that for just a little bit. And it's kind of a nice effect. Somebody's asking, could you make a tutorial on sculpting clothes, the folds and the wrinkles? Yeah, there is a video tutorial on that exact subject. I don't know if it's in the premium figure sculpting fundamentals course, or if it's one of the free lessons. I think there's a free lesson on it on the Proco 3D YouTube channel. I'll have to double check on that, but it's something that I have covered in a video lesson. I might do another one at some point, but that video is out there. It does exist. let's see, this is what I struggle with, is getting a consistent, uniform shading around the figure in a way that looks good and doesn't, where you don't see all the lines. It's kind of tricky. Got to be careful not to like press too hard in some areas. Can you draw Billy Harrington? Maybe. I'll probably forget the name. Is he another bodybuilder? You'd have to send me a request on Instagram, because I'll forget. I'll forget here. Give me a message on Instagram and I'll consider it. But no guarantees, because unless it's like a commission that you're paying for, then. But unless it's a commission, I can't guarantee anything. Thanks, that's the only thing that's really putting me back. Yeah, the drapery is tricky, the wrinkles of drapery, but there's a few things, there's a few tricks and things that I mentioned in the video that can help. Looking for what's called the eye of the fold in drapery is really important. It's like a tension area where the forms kind of flow out from that tension area, and so there are things that you can be aware of, that if you are aware of it and if you're looking for it, it makes it easier to draw or sculpt drapery. But yeah, you might look up on the Proco 3D YouTube channel, drapery, and see if I put that up. I can't remember if I did it as a free lesson or as a premium lesson. I think there's a short free lesson and then a premium demo, if I remember correctly, but it's been a while, and I did so many lessons I can't remember which ones were free, which ones were premium. But there's a lot of free lessons on the Proco 3D page. Okay. And then I like some people that I've seen, they do these drawings where the shaded areas just kind of fall off into shadow in a nice way. So I'm trying to replicate some of those, or that feeling that you know that something's there, but it kind of just falls off, and you let it fall off. You let the information be lost, and you don't have to outline everything, in a way that's cartoonish, or you can just kind of allow things to fall off into the darkness. It's kind of, well, that sounds depressing, but in drawing terms, allow the shaded areas to remain somewhat mysterious and ambiguous. Steve Houston, I think Steve Houston is somebody that does that really well. His drawings where he lets the light just kind of fall off. Did you get good at drawing when first sculpting, or sculpting then drawing? So I've always been interested in drawing. I used to draw a lot more, so that's why I'm trying to get back into drawing. So drawing was my first, like, art related passion. I just liked drawing. I liked drawing people. People were interesting to me, and so it was art, it was drawing first, and then sculpting. But the thing with sculpting is that I felt like when I started sculpting, I became better at sculpting than I was at drawing, even though I hadn't sculpted for as much time. I just felt like compared to most sculptors, I was just able to find the forms a little bit easier. Just made more sense in my brain. And so for that reason, I've kind of focused on sculpting. But at the same time, as somebody that's trying to make a living online, I recognize that the community of people interested in drawing is a lot larger than those interested in sculpting. And so being able to do both, and as a content creator, being able to tap into both of those audiences, I think will be hopefully beneficial for my brand as an artist, my personal brand. Somebody that can draw, sculpt, and paint. So one of my goals for this year is to do one great oil painting, which is that's a high bar. Few artists ever do a truly great painting. So I'm gonna try to do that this year. But painting, is just drawing. It's just drawing with your paints. Most mistakes that painters make are drawing mistakes with value and shape, rather than like color. We can forgive mistakes with color. In fact, you can just like randomly replace the color of a lot of drawings or a lot of paintings, and if the forms are right, if the shadows and the values feel right, then our mind just says, oh yeah, that looks good. Because values, we notice when things feel off when it comes to values. But color can change depending on the lighting situation. You can have a blue light coming, or a red light, or an orange light. So the colors are not as consistent. But that light, whatever type of light it is, it behaves in a way that's predictable and in a way that we recognize. So it's much more important to get the values right than the color. And so that's why I'm working on trying to understand and see these values a little bit more accurately. And shading's a big part of that. So today I'm taking the time to try to shade out a drawing in a way that's a little bit more developed. Let's see, let's take some. I'm also going to allow, this area of the neck, which I previously outlined, I'm going to allow that to kind of fall into shadow. I'm going to break up this line a little bit. I'll have a little bit of the line, especially where it overlaps with some other forms. but I'm going to soften it up quite a bit. Where did you study to learn to draw and sculpt like this? Well, most of my drawing instruction just came from YouTube, the Proco channel, as well as the Proco courses. When I became a sculptor, Stan was kind enough to let me have access to his drawing courses, and and so those premium and even the free content. I learned more from the free content than I learned in college. And the free drawing content on the Proco page, I mean, it's some of the best information in the world in a concise and easy to understand format, and it's just an amazing resource. So if you're not taking advantage of that, then you're probably not serious about drawing. So the Proco stuff, very beneficial, very helpful. With sculpting, most of it, I did study sculpting in college, and that kind of taught me how to do abstract stone sculpting. But as far as the more realistic figurative stuff, a lot of it I learned from the book Modeling and Sculpting the Human Figure by Edward Lantieri. It's a good resource for anybody interested in sculpting, and if you like learning from books, and the visuals are great for that as well. And so a lot, I'd say I learned more from books and from working sculptors. There were some other students. Jason Millward was a student that taught me how to build my first armature, wire armature, and that's the technique that I show on the Proco 3D channel. And there's other techniques. I have another technique I show on the Andrew Joseph Keith channel. So there's lots of different methods of doing things like building an armature for a wire armature for sculpture. But a lot of it's just looking for the information. YouTube's a great resource. The University of YouTube. I think I found more value from YouTube content than from my college degree, and college cost way more. And in the arts, nobody really cares if you have a degree. They care if, like, can you create art that looks good and feels accurate, and what's the brand behind your name? Those are more important questions than do you have a degree. So I don't really recommend studying art in college. I think that's maybe taking a few college art classes just individually, but like a degree, I mean, it's just not worth the cost when it comes to that. You have to take a bunch of classes, even if you're just interested in art, and so you have to take a very wide approach to something that you want to go deep into. And college is a very wide approach where you have to learn about things that are completely unrelated. And so let's see if I can't continue. So I'll get to the point, maybe we'll see if I get to the point where I start taking an eraser and bringing out the highlights from what I've been doing. But right now it's primarily just focusing on those shadow areas, looking for shadow shapes. What shape is this shadow? And originally in the outline looking for the muscles, things like this, but now just coming in and choosing the shadows I want to emphasize. going to try to do the same thing on this side that I did on the other side, of letting some of these forms fall into shadow and become the shadow. So he's asking, do you play any games? I assume you're talking about like video games, because like games, as far as like sports, I love table tennis, ping pong. Some people call that a game rather than a sport. I see it as a sport, and that's one that I really enjoy. But as far as video games, you know, the only video games I've really ever gotten into were on Sega Genesis, which kind of ages me. It kind of dates me. Sega Genesis, I loved. There's a game, Ristar, where you're a little, you're like a star that has these long, stretchy arms, and you grab things and bang them against your head, and it's just like a 2D. It's like, you know, Mario, similar to 2D, but it's not even as popular or as common as Mario. And so Ristar is one that I enjoyed playing, and I play sometimes with my son, who's, you know, 5, and but it's a very, you know, it's a very basic rudimentary game. And then there was also on the Sega Genesis, there was what's it called, Spot Goes to Hollywood. Those were like the only those are like, you know, old school video games on the Sega. I think you can find those. And then on the computer, there was a game called Jazz Jackrabbit, and I've tried to find that Jazz Jackrabbit 2, and I've tried to find that game to be able to play it, or with my son, with my 5-year-old son, but I haven't been able to find that one. So that one, I don't know. That might have been lost to time. But those are like the games that I've played. Video games. But I'm not super into video games. I had, you know, when I was little, we didn't play a lot of video games. I mostly did my hobbies, which were drawing and juggling. Actually, I got pretty into juggling at some point. Maybe I'll do a video at some point showcasing my juggling skills, though it's been a while, so maybe that'll be next year's goal, is to get back into build my juggling skills back up. But as far as games, I never got into like the modern games where you're moving all over the place, and let's see, trying to, and it's like you have a controller that has a ton of buttons. You know, the controllers for the Sega were very basic, just a couple buttons. So I never really got into more sophisticated video games, even though you know, I could have. There's definitely people in my generation that did get into those things, but I just wasn't among those. Holy moly. This drawing session has gone way longer than I realized. So usually I try to do like half hour session. We're going on into an hour and 20 minutes. Man. But it's just so good. Okay. But I think I'll continue this one tomorrow, because I'd like to make this a decent, you know, well done, well thought out shading study, because I think it's going well and I'd like to finish it up. Okay, if you're interested in drawing, you know, drawing the human figure, then I encourage you to check out my ebooks, An Artist's X-Ray Vision. There's one on the male figure, one on the female figure, and it's just a series of helpful diagrams that I found useful as an artist. And I draw those over reference images, and then you have the reference images as well, so you can kind of see the lens through which artists try to observe the figure. And if you're interested in sculpting, then I hope you'll consider joining my sculpting courses. There's one on the figure sculpting fundamentals. That's kind of an introductory course to all of those. And then there's also a portrait sculpting course and a hand sculpting course for those difficult areas that we struggle with. And those go a little bit more in depth into anatomy and things like that. So if you're interested, I hope you'll check out those links. If you're on Instagram, you can find those in the link in my bio. If you're on YouTube, the links in the video description will be where those are at. And yeah, maybe tomorrow I'll try to continue this drawing and see if we can't continue to kind of pull out the lights and shadows in a way that's interesting. But I like what's happening so far. Hopefully I can not ruin this tomorrow, but I think I would like to take just a little bit more time to do that. If you're interested in the type of pencil, you know, you can look this up on YouTube, or on eBay, or on Amazon, wherever you can get access to products. I think these come from, it's like from, oh, I forget the country, but anyway, that's where I ordered it from. But this is the name of it: Kyo Noir Hartmouth 4345-2. This is the medium lead, 5.6 millimeter black pencil lead on a 5.6 millimeter mechanical pencil. These are fun. I like the ones that are all metal. This one's all metal. There's also some cheaper ones that have a plastic body, which is totally fine. It's just to hold the lead, so it doesn't matter too much. All right. So yeah, this was started today, January 10th, and we'll keep it going tomorrow. Stay creative, stay productive. Hopefully I'll see you again soon in another video.